Hey guys, welcome to the Wrestling Escape Pod. Welcome to this latest episode. We are going to focus on WrestleMania entrances. A big shout out to my co-host with the most, who is still sat there on his own, which is a big surprise. I think we all expected a lady friend to be with him this week.
I have an announcement.
Oh, kick it up. Yeah.
She has competition.
No, why? Who from?
A woman named Svetlana with an E instead of an I messaged me.
What? What is going on here? Svetlana.
Yeah. I figure we should see what our audience wants before we decide on the best woman to fulfill my life.
Wow.
Because
I'm saying Svetlana versus Svetlana in a Tommy Toy Travels on a pole match. That's what I'm calling for. That's what
I'll say this. Let's do a poll. We will do it on Twitter. I'll get the biographies, get the pictures. People can say who they think is the best match for me, who would be the cutest couple based on that. I will say, though, Svetlana already has a child, so I can still be the father that stepped up.
Wow. She does get bonus points for that. Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So that is huge. What a big announcement. So we're gonna battle off two women against each other that we've never met, just for entertainment purposes, to see which one we're going to pair up with Tommy Toy Travels. You tell me another podcast that's bringing you that kind of content, because I don't think they're out there.
It's a real life Bachelor. You know that TV show, The Bachelor, Love Island? Those are fake. This is real.
This is real.
This is raw.
And did you say that you will marry the winner? Was that what you just said? So whoever wins the poll...
Unconfirmed. It is a mail order bride website, though, so...
Yes. Okay.
I don't want to jump the gun.
Wow. In my mind, that's the end result, yeah? So... I'm hoping that, what's this? I think this is episode 9. By the time we get to about episode 20, I'm expecting 3 of us to be on this podcast. I'm going to have to try and find a way of getting another TV screen onto this YouTube video for Svetlana or Svetlana or whoever else comes out of the woodwork.
Oh,
so
I have gotten tons of messages. I am a very, very excited person based on that, yeah. You should do it, Daze. You should do it.
If I went on there, trust me, I'd break that site. They'd all
many messages.
They'd all want a piece of this cake. Let me tell you.
Yep. Understood.
So in there. And okay, so that's one thing. So we've got we know where we are with that. There's going to be a poll on Twitter. And we'll see how that plays out. Tell me about the tree situation. That's the other thing people are going to want an answer to. So you went out. Did you count how many trees are out there?
I tried.
What do you mean you tried? What is going on? This is a sham. This is what do you mean you tried?
You know how trees, they're big and they're branches.
Yes.
Well, it's big and there are branches. But I don't know if that one you're seeing there is just 1 or 2.
Well, how many trunks has it got? How many bodies has it got?
I think 1.
1.
Counting is a little difficult.
Okay.
But it seemed like 1.
Right.
But in that window, all bets are off. I don't know if it's one and the same. I don't know if it's the same tree.
Oh my God. Windows. How can you not know? How can you not know how many trees are in your garden? How do you stand there? How are you standing in your garden looking at trees going, wow, this is a mystery, isn't it?
I didn't do well in whatever calculus class that would be that would allow me to measure whether it's 1 tree or 2 trees, Daze.
Okay, fair. Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I'm being too judgmental. It would strike me as quite a simple task, but I don't know.
No, I know our audience wants precision when it comes to the reveal of what's outside.
That's what they deserve as well.
Yeah.
But you're not giving
just like Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but you're not going to give it.
Just like I don't know how I'm going to complete that sentence.
Okay, cool. Oh, wow. Let's try and deliver some kind of wrestling podcast now, shall we?
Yes.
So a slight update on Tommy's mail order bride situation, and a slight update on how many trees are in the garden. We still don't really know.
No.
But this episode is going to be based on WrestleMania entrances, epic WrestleMania entrances. And I had a moment of realization that kind of unlocked this whole episode for me, right? And my moment of realization was when I realized it doesn't have to be the wrestlers. Like, any entrance could be included here. We don't have to specifically talk about the wrestlers. So I've got some pretty good, pretty interesting, pretty juicy things for us to throw around. But I know that you've taken a very interesting approach to this episode as well. So let me throw this over to you.
Yes. I think what's our audience like? Is your audience mostly UK, US? Well, for those of you that don't know, there are a lot of protests going on in the US. And I wanted to take the time to show some support to the Black Lives Matter movement and to try and end police brutality in the States. Anywhere, let's be honest, police brutality anywhere is not good. But right now, things aren't doing too well in the US, and they haven't been doing too well since the start of the US. And I just feel like I'm just not doing enough. And somehow I came to the realization that, like, instead of just talking about wrestling, WrestleMania, it would be cool to go back and raise up some of those Black wrestlers who did have some incredible moments at WrestleMania, because there aren't a lot of them. But going through, I was surprised to find some really cool stuff and some really fun stuff to lift up. So I thought that it would be fitting.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach. I think that's really, it's so important as well, because even though, you know, this is a new podcast, I mean, we haven't even hit 10 episodes yet. There is still an audience out there, and I think it's so important that we're still talking about these things and still recognizing what's going on, and any voice that you do have, using it the right way. Speaking out against racism and things like that. So we're not going to get bogged down in it. You know, this is the escape pod. This is the place where you can escape from everything that's going on in the world. But yeah, as soon as Tommy dropped me an email about it earlier, and as soon as I read it, I was like, yeah, that's brilliant. I totally see where you're coming from with that. So yeah, this should be genuinely a really interesting episode. It's one that I wasn't too sure about topic wise. Because we have done a WrestleMania episode before, but I gotta tell you, I think there's some really, really interesting stuff to go through. So, shall I just touch on a little bit of the history and then throw over to your? Okay,
yes, please.
Okay, so I've gone back to the first WrestleMania, and I actually watched the beginning of it because I really wanted to know, when it comes to entrances, what's the first thing you see when WrestleMania starts? What's the first voice that you hear? More importantly, who was the first person to have an entrance at WrestleMania? What was the first match? Things along those lines. I'm always interested in that kind of information. And interestingly, and I do love this, the first thing you see is a little video package. There's no voiceover. The first voice you hear is Gorilla Monsoon. Gorilla Monsoon says, "Welcome everyone." And that is the first thing that's actually said at WrestleMania. The first voice you hear is from the legendary Gorilla Monsoon, which I thought was really nice. The first entrance, this is really interesting. The first few matches, when they go over to the action, they've already come down to the ring. You don't see them coming down. So the first few matches, the wrestlers are in the ring. But they do talk to Lord Alfred Hayes, and in the background, you can see the executioner making his way to the ring. So it's kind of weird that the first WrestleMania entrance you ever see is by accident, is complete fluke. Lord Alfred Hayes is talking to the camera, doing a piece to camera, and just behind him, you can see the Executioner just walking down to the ring, like not really getting much of a reaction or anything. Obviously, no music or anything like that. And that's the first ever WrestleMania match. Tito Santana versus the Executioner, and the Executioner at this point was undefeated, and so Tito Santana versus the Executioner. What's amazing, this is where things get even more tasty, the first proper entrance that I could find where they, specifically said to them, let's film you coming down to the ring. The first person to do that is one of the biggest legends in the history of wrestling, and he wasn't even competing at this show. And it is Bruno Sammartino. Bruno Sammartino. I think we spoke about this before. His son had a match at WrestleMania 1, David Sammartino. And so the first entrance that you see of people specifically being filmed coming down to the ring, the first person to come out is Bruno, who's the manager, if you will. And right behind him is his son, David Sammartino. And man, the reaction, because this is in Madison Square Garden. Bruno Sammartino, one of the greatest champions in the history of WWE, one of the greatest ever wrestlers. They called him, I think they still call him, the living legend. And the reaction he gets is huge, absolutely huge. So I just thought that was really, really cool. So those are a few firsts, if you will. I think it's later on in that show that for the main event, Roddy Piper comes out and he has some bagpipe players with him as well. So that's kind of like the most adventurous that we get when it comes to entrances. In regards to WrestleMania 3, that's where we start. Like, it's such a big, is it the Silver Dome? It's such a big arena stadium that they have to have little ring carts that bring them down to the ring and take them back again.
Turnbuckles.
Yeah, they were awesome. Turnbuckles, ropes, everything. They were like carts, properly decorated and done like a ring. So yeah, we had that. WrestleMania 4, WrestleMania 5 had steps. Like steps that actually took you down to the ring. So people were like running down these steps. I mean, like proper hazardous. So that was really strange. So it's been really interesting kind of going back and looking at the evolution of entrances and seeing them going from literally a curtain, no music, to it becoming a bit more of a bigger deal. By the time we get into WrestleMania 8, WrestleMania 9, we're pretty much established with music and some kind of showmanship. But yeah, it's an interesting journey kind of leading up to that. So I'm looking forward to exploring some of these very much so. So do you want to start us off with your first example?
Let's start with WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania. So I was like you. I started at the start. I started at the bottom or the top, whichever way you're looking at it. And Mr. T, main event. Roddy Piper, he got like the big pomp and circumstance, as you said, with the bagpipes and everything. But then there comes Mr. T and Hulk Hogan, pre-Goldberg entrance, but feeling very much like that aesthetic. Two badasses just coming out like, well, Hulk Hogan, not so much, but Mr. T, when he was going out, he was just like, this is a big fight feel. He's going out there. He's not taking names. And as I said, it was pre-Goldberg. So even though a lot of wrestlers were like that at WrestleMania 1 just coming out, I felt like Mr. T, man, that was a big fight feel.
Do you know, I completely agree because you're right. All they did was they showed the backstage area. And it's kind of weird, actually, because when do they ever do that now? So WrestleMania 1, in retrospect, is very strange because you see behind the curtain, which is so weird because, like, kayfabe and everything was at its absolute zenith, right? I mean, like, you never went behind the curtain, but that's exactly what they did at WrestleMania 1.
They showed, so cool.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. It would be like now seeing them waiting in the gorilla position, Do you know what I mean? Like watching them getting ready to come out, and then they walk through, and then you get the entrance. Now you only see the bit where they first come out. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, do you know, really interesting you say that, 'cause actually that was a fact that had passed me by
Mhm.
that I'd never really considered. So, but yeah, how weird that that WrestleMania doesn't have a WWE Championship match. The
Right?
first WrestleMania, the main event is a tag match.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Very cool.
Very cool. Very, very strange as
And
well.
then you
But
mentioned you mentioned WrestleMania 3.
yes,
Coco, Beware.
the
Now this one
Birdman.
is dude, coming out to Morris Day and the time. If you guys know me, I am a big giant Prince fan. So when I saw him coming out, doing the whack, hallelujah, I was I was so hyped because a wrestler using a Prince related theme and having like a legit bird on his arm,
Yeah,
that's just the top of that spice.
I used to love Frankie and Coco, and there was a few animals that were around at that time. Bulldogs had Matilda. They actually had a bulldog. Of course, Jake the Snake had a snake. I seem to recall like Bad News Brown having some sewer rats at one point as well. Not that you ever saw them. They were just in a cage that was covered over. But yeah, I mean, as well, talking of entrances, Undertaker had a black crow at WrestleMania 9 as a part of his entrance as well. So there has been a few occasions where animals have been involved in entrances. The one that always comes to mind for me is, again, WrestleMania 9, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Bobby the Brain Heenan, when he first comes out at WrestleMania 9, he's on a camel backwards. He's like looking like he is scared to death. And he's like, can someone sort this out? Can someone stop the camel? And he's like coming on the way down. Because he was always, we've already said before, one of the funniest guys in the history of WWE. Everything that he
Mhm.
did was done for kind of comedic purposes. And yeah, even his entrance as he was going down to the ring, I think he was on commentary for a little bit. And as he was going down, yeah, this camel was like throwing him all around, and he's like having to hold on for his life. And good stuff, man. Fun stuff. Have you got another one lined up?
I got a list,
Oh,
but if you want to take one, I threw out two,
okay.
so I think it's only fair for
Well,
you to go.
I've got one that is huge, and it might even have my favorite entrance in it, right? And there's so much in this. I don't think until I sat down and watched this, I really appreciated how much is in this match. The entrances, the finish, another entrance when the match is over as well. There's so much in this. This is WrestleMania 7 Ultimate Warrior versus Macho King Randy Savage. And the reason why I've chosen this is because it's such an interesting story. This was a retirement match in the sense of whoever lost had to retire, whoever lost had to leave WWE. And so it's Macho Man, Ultimate Warrior. You didn't really want either to leave. I mean, they're both absolute legends. They're both icons. So who's going? Who's leaving? And because it was such an important match, because it was such a big match, the entrances were big as well. Macho King, and he was with Sensational Sherry or Queen Sherry at the time. They were being carried down, very much like Baron Corbin has been, King Corbin has been in recent times. They were being carried down by minions that had him on their shoulder. So they were carried down. What's really interesting, though, when Ultimate Warrior comes out, he doesn't run. This is one of the only times he walks to the ring. The music hits and he comes out quite explosive, bursts through, but stops and looks around, takes his time, and walks down to the ring, kind of really looking at the crowd as he's going, because it's not the longest ring walk, but he's taking in the fact this could be the last time that he's about to do this. And again, it just builds it. Even Bobby Heenan on commentary is like, is that the Ultimate Warrior? This lunatic normally comes running out 100 miles an hour. Like, what's going on? And I think it's Gorilla Monsoon that says, this is a different ball game tonight. The stakes are higher than they've ever been, and it really sets the tone. Really, really sets the tone. The ring attires are incredible as well. Both of their ring attires are absolutely iconic. The end of the match sees the Macho King lose, and so he is forced to step away from the WWE. Ultimate Warrior wins, and Queen Sherry turns on the Macho King. She's obviously can't believe it, because this means that she's out as well. Because that's it, she's Queen Sherry, he's the Macho King. If he's gone, she's gone. So she loses it, she flips, and she starts like kicking with her heels on. The Macho King is down. And what is so great about this is Miss Elizabeth had obviously a falling out with Macho Man. He had decided to go in a different direction. He'd got with the Queen, Sensational Sherry, but she still loved him. She still loved him, Tommy. And so she was still there in the crowd, looking on like Princess Diana, all concerned. And she was like, watching as Queen Sherry was like beating up her man. And there's this great, it's so good. I had so much fun watching this match back. But you can see the crowd are just willing her for, go on, Miss Elizabeth, go on. She's like, she don't know what to do, and she's all a little bit, and she does it. She jumps over the railing. She goes running down to the ring. The crowd are going apoplectic. They're like losing their mind. She jumps in. She grabs Queen Sherry by the hair, like throws her off of the Macho King, and then she doesn't really know what to do. She kind of stands there, and Macho King gets up and sees Elizabeth, and they end up hugging, and the crowd, and there's tears, and it's all just this big thing, and it's like, it's amazing. From start to finish, from the purpose of the match, from the entrances, from Miss Elizabeth's entrance, everything delivers. Every single thing delivers. It's the whole story is amazing. So, yeah, I wanted to make sure we definitely got that in somewhere.
That sounds kind of like a little prediction for what's going to happen between Svetlana and Svetlana.
Yes. Yes. I'd love for you to recreate that Macho King moment. That would be a mosh.
Anything's possible.
Anything's
possible on the Wrestling Escape pod. Exclusively on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Anchor Podcasts,
and love.com. Are we on there now?
Loveme.com.
Loveme.com. Yes. You can find us on there. Yeah. We take our shirts off over there.
Yes. Yes. Very much so.
Right, next up, what you got?
All right. The last one I talked about, how it was pre-Goldberg. This one is pre-Rainmaker, making it rain, having money, come down, WrestleMania 24, Floyd Mayweather.
Oh, yeah.
The Big Show.
Yeah.
Dude, that's came out looking like money. Money, Daze. And how do you show someone looking like money for an audience that doesn't understand that someone's looking like money? You have it rain money. So he walks out with his squad, with his crew, money raining down, and it's just like, he's here. He's in the house.
They've done that a few times, have money raining down, because I know Shane McMahon did similar at WrestleMania 32. He actually came out, this wasn't one that I was going to talk about, but when he came out for his match against Undertaker, his kids came out as well. And they were dancing around as well. So you got Shane and future McMahons that are there as well, as these notes come raining down that have got Shane McMahon's face on. So they have done that a few times. Do you know, I've never seen, I do have one of those notes. I was fortunate enough to get one. They sold them as souvenir pieces. I don't think I've ever seen a Floyd Mayweather note for sale. I love like
Mhm.
those kind of quirky merchandise collectibles,
Yeah.
you know, those like really different items. I was saying on one of the other streams, I've actually ordered some of the dirt from the Boneyard match. WWE have actually, they now have got a plaque that's got a pit like bits of dirt in from the Boneyard match. Apparently, they gathered up some dirt from the ground. So I've got a little piece of America whisking its way over to me. So
Daze, you could have just asked me to send you some dirt. I would have just gone
ah
outside.
yeah.
Could
Whilst
have
you're
acted like it was from that match.
on the for the 20th time, whilst you're trying to count those trees, you could have gone down and picked up some dirt for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how many trees,
No.
but I
One day. One day.
I don't know if I want to break the sacred ground around the trees though for you.
Yes. Well, I
No,
wouldn't.
I say
I
that.
wouldn't want you to do that. In all fairness, I think let them be. They're happy
Mhm.
enough as it is. But I do genuinely love that kind of quirky merchandise, those kind of quirky collectibles. So
Mhm.
I'm genuinely excited for that to arrive. But yeah, really good point. What did you think about that match?
I did not watch the match.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all right. The match is it gets mixed. It gets a mixed reaction because it actually it did all right, that match, and I think a lot of people were expecting it to kind of flop. It didn't resonate with everyone, but I think Mayweather did a pretty good job. I think he did a pretty good job. It's not a match that many people talk about these days.
Yeah, and it's interesting that they don't.
Yeah, because he is one of the biggest sports stars ever.
Yeah, and to have him have a match at WrestleMania, it's a little interesting.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long ago. It was about 12 years ago.
Speaking
So
of a big superstar showing up at WrestleMania, Shaq. And talk
Shaq.
about entrances that let down Shaq.
Yeah, wow, that whole thing was a letdown because it was meant to
Yeah,
build towards a match, wasn't it, between Shaq and Big Show, and
and
it
it never happened.
never happened. No, never happened.
And it should have,
Mm,
because Shaq is huge.
literally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, sorry, I just had to mention that because I was very upset at that. How like he just kind of ran out. They just put a basketball graphic on the floor and was like, "Yeah, this is your entrance."
yeah,
It's Shaq.
yeah, it's a really good point. It was everything about that was flat. Everything
Yeah.
about that. And as a result, I don't think there was anyone that wanted to see Big Show versus Shaq the next year. I think Big Show and Shaq had talked about it. It was sorted. They wanted to do it. No one else wanted it.
Yeah.
No one else
Yeah.
wanted it. So, but yeah, you're right still to include it. God, do you know, it's so funny. You just forget about these people.
Yeah.
I forgot that Shaq was there. I forgot about the Floyd Mayweather thing. It just for some reason they just don't get spoken about that much. Very strange.
Mm.
Let's talk about a moment that does get spoken about quite a bit, though. A moment that a lot of people love. A moment from, I know, one of the WrestleManias that you hold close to your heart. WrestleMania 31. Rusev with a tank. A freaking
I love
tank.
that.
It's a brilliant moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is when Rusev was Russian and when Lana had a Russian accent. And man, this is like 90s cartoon heel wonderfulness. Think Iron Sheik. Think Fritz von Erich. Think Sergeant Slaughter. Think about all of these amazing foreign heels. You know, Yokozuna with Japan. Like this was Rusev as a Russian. They had people in military uniform. They had cannons that were going off on the entrance stage. Massive Russian flags everywhere. And then you had Lana with the United States Championship on her shoulder coming down. They had military behind carrying this massive Russian flag. And just with all of this, like you had like I think it was like the Russian national anthem that might have been playing as well. So you had all of this stuff that was going off. And then in the background, just to put that cherry on top, Rusev in a tank. In a tank. Like, Mattel have started making vehicles. I don't know if you've seen this, but they made the Slammobile. They've got a Slambulance that is on the way as well, an ambulance that you can break apart. They've got to make that tank. They've got to make Rusev's tank. The only problem is he's not with the company anymore. He's gone.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would have got a Rusev figure with the tank, and that would have been absolutely epic. But
We'll do Lana's tank.
yeah, I can't think of an entrance that was as big as having a tank. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's been big entrances, but I can't think of another vehicle that's come in of that size. We've had vehicles. I know John Cena did it. I know JBL has driven in. I think Alberto Del Rio has as well. Quite a few different superstars have driven in part of their entrance, but tank is the next level. Tank is definitely next level.
I want to lift up another disappointing thing as you're talking about people being driven in. Sasha Banks, WrestleMania 33. She had that like really nice looking car, but she kind of just stood on the back of it.
Yes.
I was like, because she did the 2016 Hell in a Cell where she came out in that really nice looking car and she popped the top and she stood up and it's like her town Boston. She gets down and it's like people around her squad. And it's like, that's cool. But WrestleMania 33, it looked like she was riding down in like an amusement park kiddie car ride.
It was strange. It was very, very strange. Do you remember WrestleMania 32 when...
That's what I was going to say afterwards. Yeah, because compared to that was incredible. Getting Snoop Dogg to come out with her.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then 33, it was just like, she deserved better.
I love 32 because it connects to 24. Because at WrestleMania 24, that's obviously Ric Flair's final match. Now, I know he goes to compete in Impact. I've never watched Impact. So actually for me, this was his final match. So this still has a lot of impact for me. I know there's a lot. I think it has a lot of impact for everyone, this match and entrance and the whole thing. But obviously there seems to be a little caveat that's always attached to it of, but he did wrestle after. But for me, he didn't. So this was his final match for me. So WrestleMania 24, Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels. Ric Flair in it's a beautiful, incredible blue robe. Absolutely stunning. Mattel, again, made a figure of this, which looked absolutely incredible. Ric Flair comes down. There's fireworks going off in the background. There's nothing amazingly special about it, but because it was his final match, because it's Ric Flair, it is so poignant. It's just, you get the goosebumps watching it. You get the goosebumps watching it. It's just an incredible entrance. And the reason I say it connects to 32 is because you have a triple threat, which was Sasha versus Becky versus Charlotte. So that was the triple threat match. We've spoken about Sasha coming out with Snoop Dogg. Charlotte comes out with Ric Flair, but she comes out in a robe that uses the same material as Ric Flair's entrance robe from WrestleMania 24, the one that he wore when he retired from WWE. So she is paying homage to her dad. And again, she comes down, fireworks going off, and it's great. I do love that. I do love how these entrances connect, because there's quite a few examples of that. There's another one with Triple H. Triple H had an incredible entrance at WrestleMania 30, and at WrestleMania 30 he had 3 women. So he had this mask and cloak and everything, and he had these 3 women that took the cloak off for him and took the mask and everything. They just took the items off as he made his way down to the ring. And it was really cool. It looked amazing. And those 3 women, they were all wearing masks. This is well known. All wrestling fans know this, but it was Alexa Bliss, it was Sasha Banks, it was Charlotte. Fast forward a few years, and Charlotte, of course, is getting her own WrestleMania entrances, so she does the same. She has 3 guys from NXT taking her clothes for her as she takes off, her robe and things like this. And I've got the names of those 3. They were Dan Mather, Tino Sabatelli, and Riddick Moss. So those were the 3 NXT talents that helped Charlotte during her entrance. So again, she helped out Triple H, and then a few years later, she had the similar treatment. Sadly, I don't think Dan Mather or Tino Sabatelli or Riddick Moss are likely to get WrestleMania entrances of their own so that they could carry on this tradition. Like, this could just keep going. But unfortunately, I think it finishes there.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
What was that? 32 we were talking about. I got so many from 32. Even my top is from 32. So I'll save that for later. So I will go to... Should I do some WTF moments?
Oh, if you do whatever you feel.
WrestleMania 28, Brodus Clay. Do I need to say anything more?
Somebody call your mama. Yes. I tell you what, this is bringing back some wonderful memories of the early streams that we did. I want to talk about Savers now.
I have nothing to say about Savers.
It doesn't matter. Even just mentioning them means that I can put the picture on screen, so I'm happy.
All right, but the legit WTF moment. WrestleMania 22, Booker T against the Boogeyman. His entrance was so long. They went for like a commercial break in the middle of it to... I think it was advertised Backlash was the next pay-per-view or something.
Yeah.
And it's the scene where Sharmell is like, you got all the weird people around you. And then it's like a lot of vignettes of weird people being around Booker T. And he keeps going, who? Like there's Paul Burchill. I don't even know who this guy is, but apparently he thinks he's a pirate. You got Eugene. And then you got Snitsky. I think he was licking Mae Young's feet because apparently he has a foot fetish. You got Ted DiBiase just laughing about money or something. You got Goldust. And the whole time, Booker T is just like, I don't know what's going on. And then they cut to a commercial break. And then they're going down to the ring. And he's still like, I don't know what's going on. And it's one of those things where it's like, this was such a long buildup.
Yeah. He's had such bad creative, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I feel so sorry for that guy.
Yeah. I watched that and I was like, what? Yeah.
That's all you can say. Yeah. There's nothing else to add. Just yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, very, very strange, but great that you mention Booker T, one of the most important black wrestlers in the history of wrestling, not just WWE. And we've spoken before about how he should have won the title against Triple H. I think we spoke about that in our most disappointing results video. So, kind of cool that he gets a mention. Definitely just reminded me of Jerry the King Lawler, because Jerry the King Lawler is also one of the most important wrestlers in the history of wrestling. And he finally got a match against Michael Cole. And again, it's not an epic entrance or anything like this, but it's one that you have to mention because he'd worked his whole career. Do you know what I mean? He'd been one of the biggest stars in wrestling, and now he finally gets a WrestleMania match. It sucks that it was against Michael Cole. It sucks that he lost as well, because he won the match. I mean, he battered Michael Cole, but he kept the submission hold on too long, so they reversed the decision, and it's like all this kind of screwy mess. It was just horrible booking, absolutely horrible from start to finish. But a great entrance. You know, he has specially made gear. He comes down, you can see the smile on his head. He is beaming because it is the absolute pinnacle. You could work for decades to get to WrestleMania. I mean, think about AJ Styles as well. You know, he competed forever in TNA, then went to New Japan, finally goes over to WWE, and I think it was in 2016. He finally gets chance to get an entrance and walk out at WrestleMania as well. And, you know, he'd put the miles in, he'd put the hard work in to get to that. So sometimes the best entrances, as we said with Ric Flair, and as you was talking about with Booker T and Jerry Lawler, sometimes they're not the entrances that are the most grand. It's just it's what it means. It's what it means. Yeah. It's the pinnacle of their careers.
And yeah, unfortunately, Booker T's didn't have the best pinnacle. In WCW, he was treated as he should have been.
Yeah.
But WWE, like the poster of WrestleMania 22 was him and John Cena. So why didn't we get that match?
Yeah. I've got another one that I think was really cool. We've spoken about it before, so I'm not going to dwell on it for too long. But Ronda Rousey coming out of the crowd at WrestleMania 31 again. Even though, again, this isn't a wrestler, she would go on to be a wrestler for WWE. And of course, when she would get her own entrance, she would actually have Joan Jett singing her entrance theme. And so, as she was coming down, she had a live band. And I know that you're a big fan of like the live bands and the live music and everything. And we've touched on that before. CM Punk had that treatment. DX have had that treatment. I know Motorhead have done it for Triple H as well. So there's quite a few examples of bands being there to actually play as different people come down. Shinsuke had it as well, didn't he? I remember.
Yeah, he had the guitarist for Alice Cooper.
Mm.
She shredded. I watched that again before this, and I was like, oof. Love shredding on guitar.
Yeah, that was a great entrance as well. I mean, this is. I mean, there's so much to talk about because this really is one of the big aspects of WrestleMania. When it comes to WrestleMania, it's not just great matches that you look forward to. The entrances are so big as well, and you know, you see new ring gear. They work on these. There was big rumors that Bray Wyatt was going to have a monster truck this year. We did see a truck for Becky Lynch, which I'm guessing would have been a part of her entrance at WrestleMania 36. I think it still was. She kind of pulled up in it. Yeah, there's been some absolutely huge ones, but that Ronda one, I am a fan of that because of how it played out, and The Rock was in the ring with Steph and Triple H. They tell him to get out the ring. He jumps out, spots Ronda, goes round, and I've said before that camera where it's on The Rock, and everyone's like, who has he seen? Where's he gone? And then it just pans across, and she's just there staring at him, and you just see The Rock and Ronda both in frame at the same time, and he just puts his hand out. She grabs it, jumps over the barricade, and we are off to the races with one of my favourite segments in WrestleMania history. I love that. Honestly, one of my favourite segments ever. I've rewatched that so many times. It's incredible. So that was WrestleMania 31 for anyone that hasn't seen that. Have you got another one lined up?
Yes. Remember when I was talking about Booker T and I said that it was interesting because it was so long and they went to a commercial break. And and then they kept showing people in the audience like, this is celebrity A, celebrity B, celebrity C. And then he came out. So this is another one. WrestleMania 11. It was like WrestleMania football or something because they had a bunch of football players come out for Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
And then they had Bam Bam Bigelow come out, and then Lawrence Taylor came out. So Lawrence Taylor basically got two entrances. He got a squad of football players coming out before him. Then Bam Bam had to come out. Then Lawrence came out. And I thought that was really cool to give him like his, because it's like if Lana came out, then whoever Rusev was facing came out, then Rusev came out. It was cool how they did that, how they cut it up. And as we were talking about earlier, is like we were able to see for this episode so many interesting concepts that WWE did in the past that for some reason they don't bring it back or don't try it again. And something like that is playing with the types of entrances. I think that's pretty cool. And it's something that could make things a little more interesting.
I one that had passed me by again when it comes to these celebrities. They just don't stay in my brain. So yeah, it's so strange that Floyd, Shaq, Lawrence Taylor, I mean, they just don't get spoken about. I mean, I'm doing my best to forget about Gronkowski as well. You know, really whatever I can do to forget.
Boston are trying to do the same too.
Yes. That was a big deal, and that actually was another match that went a lot better than what we thought. A lot of credit to Lawrence Taylor. It's not my favorite match by any means, but that could have been an absolute disaster. But it turns out all right in the end.
But especially because they put it at the top of the card.
Brave.
So that's yeah.
So you're talking about the top of the card. I'm going to talk about the start of a card. I'm going to talk about the start of WrestleMania 30. This saw Hulk Hogan making his way down. So Hulk Hogan came down to the ring to kickstart the show. He was talking away, and all of a sudden the glass breaks and down comes Stone Cold Steve Austin. Just seeing Hogan and Austin in the ring at the same time at the start of WrestleMania 30 was just so... It was one of those where you go, this is incredible. This is such a moment. The fact that we've got these two guys in this building, in this ring at the same time, incredible. Absolutely incredible. How can it get better? And then it did. If you smell... And that was it. The Rock came down. And it's like... I lost my mind. It was absolutely brilliant. And this is what I was saying earlier about how, for me, this episode really was unlocked when I realized, hang on, we don't have to just talk about wrestlers. We can talk about moments like this, because obviously these guys weren't competing at the show, but these are still epic entrances, and the way that they're done, and the fact that they were complete surprises. The Rock's really good at doing that as well. He's done it quite a bit, where he'll just, his music will hit, and out he comes and kind of catches everyone off guard. It's really, really cool. So that's definitely one of my favorite moments. Not my favorite entrance. I'm saving that. But
too.
It's up there. How many more have you got?
2.
2 more.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do one of yours then.
Okay. This is more a question for you.
Okay.
Which do you prefer? New Day, WrestleMania 32 or 33? Dragon Ball Z or Final Fantasy?
I don't care. Because
you're not a gamer or
I don't watch
anime?
or play either of them. And honestly, I had no idea that they even had a Final Fantasy themed attire until you just said it. I knew one was Dragon Ball Z. Was that 32?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that was Dragon Ball Z. I didn't at the time, but I saw enough people talking about it afterwards that I found that out. But I didn't know that they were dressed like Final Fantasy at all. I don't know anything about those. I don't know nothing about them. Have you got a preference?
Yeah.
Go on.
It is Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z. They made those figures, didn't they? They made.
Did they for real?
Yeah, they made a 3-pack, which I normally have around, which I don't have around right now. Otherwise, I'd grab it and show you. But yeah, I'll put pictures up. But they did a 3-pack because wasn't it 32 where it was the big box of Bootios, and that's regarded as one of
and
the
it came out. Yeah.
and then the Bootios fell over and they came out of the box. Well, Mattel actually made a box of Bootios and they put the 3 figures in and they had that attire. The only problem was because it was 3 figures and they were elites and everything. They couldn't put like all of the entrance gear on as well, which was a real shame. Like they're missing the shoulder pads and all that kind of stuff. But
that's why that's why I didn't even. That's why I was like, they made toys. Because those were barely WrestleMania 32 because you need that. You need that action. It's like if they did the Triple H Terminator one and they were like, "Yo, we're doing the Terminator one," but they didn't give him the Terminator stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like,
hey, that's a great entrance as well. I didn't even think about that one. The Terminator
there were a lot
entrance.
of ones we talked about. I think it was the first episode that I was like, we went over all the good ones.
Yeah.
But we're as we said, we found some really cool stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely some in here that I wanted to talk about. So okay. So what do you like both of those? The New Day 32.
Yeah,
33?
I like both of them, but I do prefer the Dragon Ball Z entrance because, as you said, with the Bootios falling down and Dragon Ball Z anime, man. Just saying.
You a big fan?
No.
Oh. Amazing. Amazing. Right. Let me throw in Seth Rollins WrestleMania. Keep focusing on these same WrestleManias, but they are like just the best entrances. Again, that moment where his music hits and he's cashing in at WrestleMania. It was the first time it had ever happened that we'd seen a Money in the Bank cash in at WrestleMania. And it happened mid-match, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. And then all of a sudden, here comes Seth. Comes running down. They play his music as well. He comes running down to the ring. And, man, that place, it just absolutely erupts. So, again, a different kind of entrance because it's not this epic grand like the Terminator one or Rusev in a tank. But that moment... And the impact that moment had means that it has to be mentioned. We've got to talk about The Undertaker as well, because I can see we are running out of time. And we've got to speak about The Undertaker because he has the best entrances ever. So it would be rude not to. I really liked his WrestleMania 34 entrance. We didn't know if he was going to be at the show, and John Cena was sat in the crowd. And the lights went off and Elias came out and Elias basically gets into the ring. Cena gets very frustrated, starts beating up Elias, and Cena's like, I tried, he's not coming. Starts walking up the ramp and he stops. He senses something. There's a moment. The lights don't go out, but he senses something and he just stops and then the lights go. And I really love how they do that. How there's just this moment where he senses something and then the lights go and then the gong sounds and man, it's so good because he had seemingly retired the year before after his match against Roman Reigns and he left the hat and the jacket in the ring. So it seemed like he was done. So we had no idea if he was actually going to show or not. So when we got the gongs, that was amazing. His entrance as well at... I watched a few of those best entrance videos to make sure I didn't forget anything big. And I've got to tell you, the one that everyone keeps talking about on those types of videos is WrestleMania 29. And that's when it's Undertaker CM Punk. And Undertaker kind of emerges up these steps and there's loads of smoke. And there's people with their arms and their hands like reaching out at him as he's like climbing up the steps. So it's kind of like he's coming and walking out of hell. And you've got all these souls and spirits that are like reaching out at him. Like visually, it's absolutely stunning. It does look awesome. I went back and rewatched the whole thing in its entirety. And it does look really, really cool. The other one that deserves a mention is WrestleMania 20, because obviously American Badass Undertaker had lost a Buried Alive match. And so it was time now for the return of the dead man. It was time for the dead man to come back. And the way they did it was amazing. Kane is in the ring basically saying he's not coming. I killed him. I buried him alive. He's not going to be turning up. And then all of a sudden you've got these like druid chants, and Paul Bearer returns. We haven't seen Paul Bearer in ages. Paul Bearer starts walking down. These druids with flaming torches start walking down as well. And it's just so grand. And like they all stand on the entranceway and they put their torches together, and it's like an arch of fire all the way down the entranceway. And at the end, you've got Paul Bearer, and he's just standing there doing his Paul Bearer-ness, just being all Paul Bearer, looking, oh yes, like standing there with his urn and everything. And then again, you know, just so simple. The gong sound, out he steps, and the dead man has returned. So good, so good. That's it's quite long as well. Like that whole entrance with Paul Bearer coming down, the druids, and the whole thing playing out. It's quite a lengthy Undertaker entrance, but absolutely brilliant. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. Do you want to do your top one?
Sure.
Here we go. This is what we've been building towards.
Yeah. It's WrestleMania 32. I feel like a lot of mine are from there.
Okay.
Good WrestleMania, maybe? I don't know. I don't even remember it.
It was that good.
It was that good, yeah.
That's how good it was.
Partied so hard.
Yeah.
This is one of those entrances where, like, whenever people have never asked me, actually, what's your favorite WrestleMania entrance? But whenever people do ask me that, I love bringing this one up. And it is The Rock coming out with his flamethrower. Yeah. Cheerleaders, I don't need that. I don't know why they were there. I guess it was because it was like in Dallas or something. I think they were the Dallas cheerleaders.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a little off-brand for them to come out first. But then The Rock came out. He lit, was it his logo on fire?
It was his name. Yeah. I
suppose
suppose
it was just his name?
Yeah. Well, his logo, I suppose, is the Brahma Bull, if it still is. So, it said The Rock. Yeah. And he came down. And that whole segment has quite a few entrances, because the Wyatt family come out then. Because The Rock's in the ring, and then the Wyatt family come out. They surround the ring, which then brings out John Cena. And John Cena was injured and not meant to be returning for another good few months. And they say as such on commentary, like, we weren't expecting to see Cena for months yet. And so it's a big deal that Cena comes down. And of course, obviously, what with them having faced each other at WrestleMania 28 and 29, the fact that Cena's here at WrestleMania 32 to stand up for The Rock, and they're like, now that respect is there, you know? It's kind of a nice payoff to all of that. So, yeah, I mean, The Rock, incredible. Goosebumps whenever his music hits.
Yeah, and just him coming out, just be like, doing that rock smolder with a flamethrower, and then
cool.
Didn't need the cheerleaders, but it was still awesome.
Yeah, still very, very cool.
What was yours?
Well, I've just before we move on to mine, I've just got to mention about Cena, because we were just talking about Cena, and of course he's had some massive entrances. The one that I keep seeing getting mentioned is WrestleMania 25. That's when he comes down, and there's loads of other Cenas doing this on the entranceway. And
that was cool.
Apparently the reason for that is because people at the time were saying he was very generic. He's a cookie cutter. He's just, do you know what I mean? He's just very bland. Like, he's nothing special. There's loads of people like John Cena. And so they kind of took that and ran with it. And they had all these John Cenas there doing this as Cena came running down to the ring, which I thought was really, really cool. He also drove in to one of the WrestleManias as well. He was someone that kind of drove in 2-1. And yeah, he's been in a lot of the main events. He's had a lot of the big entrances, but I know that WrestleMania 25 in particular, is one that gets a lot of love. But for me, the one that I think is the biggest entrance in WrestleMania history, WrestleMania 33, the Hardy Boys, the return of the Hardy Boys. I think that entrance, we didn't know they were going to be there. There was a lot of people hoping that the Hardys were going to be there, and that pop, that eruption, because I think it was a triple threat ladder match, and it got turned into a fatal 4-way. And so there was an extra team added at the final second. And it was the New Day that announced it. The New Day come out and say, we've just heard word there is going to be another team added. But who? And then they did their classic, who. And it's just that pause. And then the Hardy music hits. And man, do you know, there's been a lot of moments in this episode. I knew this was going to be quite information heavy because there's a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of moments in this episode where if you've not seen them, I hope people have taken notes. And I hope people go and search some of these moments out, because they are some of the best wrestling moments I have ever seen. Absolutely incredible. And that one is probably my all-time favourite. I'm just trying to think if there's any little facts I can throw in just to take us home. I know that at WrestleMania 6, Diamond Dallas Page is the driver of the pink Cadillac that brings down Honky Tonk Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine. Now, Diamond Dallas Page wasn't a wrestler in WWE at this point, but obviously he had connections, and so they needed someone to drive the car. So the driver, you never see him, he's got a hat on, glasses, and all he does is drive the car. He's not a feature at all, but that is DDP that is driving that car at WrestleMania 6 for Honky Tonk Man.
And check this out, I'm going to make this a segue. Speaking of Black Lives Matter and supporting Black creators, everyone watching this needs to go over to my bud DGDX Animation and watch his collaborations with DDP, because they are so good.
Nice segue. I've only seen one of his videos, but it was incredible, and it was like it was a little bit like Robot Chicken.
Yeah.
Is that what he still does?
He's very inspired by Robot Chicken, and yeah, he stopped doing things on YouTube because of like probably 5 adpocalypses ago. There seemed to be one like every 2 minutes, and he instead is focusing on Instagram and working with friends and sponsors, and through that he's just been like blowing up. And it's incredibly great to see someone so talented having such a successful career.
That's great. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. If you want to see, and has he done like stuff with DDP on his YouTube channel, or like where would you send them?
I think it's on DDP's channel.
On DDP's channel?
Yeah.
Well, there we go. That's how much he's blowing up.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. He's on the channel of the driver of the Cadillac of WrestleMania 6. Yes.
We did it. That's a segue.
That is a segue. Talking of those hidden little secrets, though, CM Punk is a gangster for one of those John Cena entrances we were talking about. I think it's WrestleMania 22. There's a gangster vibe, and there's like an old style vehicle that comes out with a few gangsters that are hanging on. One of them was CM Punk. Boom! Love that. Wow. And with that, I think we're done. Is there anything you want to add?
No, just to let people know that like any little thing they do to help Black Lives Matter movement, it helps. It helps. Communities right now are especially hurting because of COVID, and this on top of it, there's just a lot of pain. And if you don't think you can do anything, you can, and we all can. So It's time to step on up.
Yeah.
And it's always time to step on up, even when it's not trending.
I mean, like, this is a little, not off topic, but I saw a horrible, it broke my heart. I seriously mean this. I was disgusted. I saw this video where you've got great people like John Jones, the UFC fighter, who's going around and like repairing the damage that's been done. There's a lot of people giving their time to repair communities right now and try to do what they can to help. But the video I saw was this guy and girl jump out of a car. They went over to where they were putting up some boards to board windows. And she grabbed this nail gun, right, went to this board, and the guy took the picture. She put the nail gun down. They jumped back in the car. They drove away. And that picture's going to go onto Instagram to be a, look at me. This is what I was doing the other day. Get out there, guys. You know, clean up your community like I am, kind of a thing. And I was like, the message is brilliant, but man, you didn't do any work. You did nothing.
Yeah.
You pulled. I mean, like, you see it all on this video, and it's honestly, the world is in such a bad place for many different reasons. So anything positive that you do out there, guys, is a step in the right direction. And
especially if you're younger than us, because when you become our age, you're going to be telling, hopefully you won't be, because you'll have stepped up where we have failed.
I mean, in all fairness, I am only 21, but I do.
That is true.
I do agree that your generation has failed. I do agree with that. But at my generation, we will try and do better. So there we go.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this very information-heavy podcast, but that's what we're here for. We're here to be an escape, to talk about some of our favorite WrestleMania moments, some of our favorite WrestleMania entrances. And you know what? I think we achieved that. Awesome, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye for now.